Tiberius is headed for trouble, mother. Serious trouble. He has no idea what he's up against. I don't know if I can keep following him.
Quintus Sempronius was the nephew of Sempronia Hilaria, but since she had raised him from childhood, she was effectively his mother. They sat on the patio of her modest townhouse on the Palatine's lower slopes, a gift from her former mistress, Cornelia. Though technically still part of the sprawling estate, the small dwelling offered her a precious sense of autonomy. Hilaria takes a quiet bite of cold cabbage, the sharp tang of the garum marinade cutting through the midsummer heat.
Tiberius Gracchus has always been your friend, Quintus. We owe the Semproni everything. Our support should be a given, not a question. When he was elected tribune, you should have recognized the opportunity. Instead, you've made a spectacle of avoiding him.
Blossius, the Stoic philosopher, helps himself to a portion of the cabbage. Though his official duties as tutor to the Gracchi were long finished, the philosopher remained a fixture of the household, spending fewer hours in Cornelia's halls and more in the quiet company of Hilaria's garden, just a short walk away.
Look at this new legislation, this commission to redistribute the ager publicus. You could have secured a seat on that board. We could have stood by Tiberius and Cornelia while ensuring our own family wasn't left behind in the reaping.
I would have ended my career before it even began. This whole affair will end in disaster.
Not necessarily. To be sure, Tiberius is playing a dangerous hand. His boldness astonishes me, though perhaps it shouldn't. He is, after all, his grandfather's blood and his mother's pride.
And Blossius's pupil. You Stoics are forever whispering that a just king is better than a republic. You filled his head with Greek fantasies, and now he's acting on them.
Tiberius is a visionary, Quintus. If my teachings gave him the spark to see what Rome could be, then I'll wear that pride to my grave.
And will you share his grave when the whole enterprise collapses? You're blinded by the crowds.
He is the most beloved man in Rome.
Which makes him the most hated man in the Senate.
Enough. The sun is too hot for this grandstanding. If you're going to bicker, at least make it worth the breath. Tell me, plainly, why is this specific gamble of Tiberius's the one that either saves Rome or burns it to the ground?
You know the crisis as well as we do, Hilaria. You simply wish to hear us argue it aloud.
I'm forcing you to be brief. Start with the land. Our ancestors won Italy acre by acre, and every victory brought us ager publicus. What was the promise back then, Quintus?
The promise was simple. You bleed for Rome, you get a farm. The smallholder was the spine of the republic. You own land, you're fit to serve in the legions. No land, no army. It's that simple.
And yet, look at the streets today. Where are the farmers?
They're begging in the Subura. Ever since the gold from the east started flooding in, the great men have developed an insatiable hunger for soil. They found every legal loophole, every crooked surveyor, to swallow the public plots whole.
And they didn't replace those farmers with Roman neighbours, they replaced them with gangs, massive silent armies of slaves who don't need wages and don't get drafted.
The midsummer air is thick, and the irony of the situation isn't lost on the trio. While they sit in a garden gifted by a Scipio, the very foundation of the Roman military, the citizen soldier, is being erased from the Italian map.
The rot has reached the front lines, Hilaria. Look at Spain. Numantia is a slaughterhouse because the Senate clique has forgotten how to lead. They treat our soldiers like expendable cattle. We are beating our own citizens and selling them into the very slavery that stole their livelihoods.
And Sicily? I hear the rumours at the market. They say the island is lost.
Sicily is an inferno, a total slave revolt. We've imported so much misery that the spark finally hit the tinder. It's a powder keg. Dispossessed farmers in the city, humiliated soldiers in the camps, and a tide of brutalized slaves in the fields. The people are screaming for a champion.
And Tiberius thinks he's the one to hold the torch, but he doesn't realise when you hold a torch in a powder keg, you don't just light the way, you destroy everything in your path.
A tribune at 29. Cornelia must be so proud.
Having Appius Claudius as a father-in-law helps. The Claudii are radical, wealthy, and they hold the Senate by the throat. But even Claudius can't stop a veto. Tiberius only needs one of his 9 colleagues to say the word, and his great vision dies on the floor of the assembly. And believe me, the landowners have enough silver to buy a dozen vetoes.
That's why Tiberius needs our support. The Roman people won that land, and so it should belong to the people.
I want the land returned as much as any man, but look at what it's costing. When Octavius issued his veto, Tiberius didn't just debate. He called for Octavius to be stripped of his office by the mob. And when Octavius refused to move, a freedman dragged him from the rostra. A servant was blinded in the scuffle, Blossius. Now the Senate is calling him a tyrant for doing what even Coriolanus never dared, breaking the sacrosanctity of a tribune.
Quintus's voice was low, strained with a desperate kind of agitation. He paced the courtyard, his eyes constantly darting toward the street, as if expecting the heavy tread of a senatorial lictor.
Tiberius acted within the law to do so.
Legal or not, he resorted to force, and force invites blood. Yes, his proposal is law now, and we have our commission. But look at the names on it. Tiberius, his father-in-law Appius Claudius, and his brother Gaius. Gaius is a boy of 21. I believe in the cause, Blossius. I truly do. But this is a target painted on all our backs.
He is surrounded by enemies, Quintus. He needed men he could trust with his life.
And in doing so, he's made it look like a dynasty. Hilaria, you say we owe the Semproni everything, and I know it. Our names are bound to theirs. But if I had taken a seat on that commission, I wouldn't be a statesman. I'd be a dead man walking. And now this business with the king of Pergamum. Attalus dies and leaves an entire kingdom to Rome, and Tiberius wants to bypass the Senate entirely to fund his farms.
The sunset cast long, blood-red shadows across the garden floor. Quintus stopped pacing and looked at Hilaria, his face pale with the realization of what was coming.
The people see it as a gift, but the Senate sees it as bribery on a royal scale. They are already whispering the word Rex. I have stood beside him since we were boys. I know the sound of his voice when he believes he is right, and I know he will not stop. I love Tiberius like a brother, but he is stepping onto a collapsing bridge, and I don't know if I have the courage to fall with him.
Tiberius has no designs on kingship. He is attempting a revolution from the bottom up, challenging the supremacy of the Senate by using the tribunate as it was meant to be used, even if the scale of it is unprecedented.
I think it's all terribly exciting. Quintus, why are you so convinced that he will fail?
Because his support is bleeding away, Mother. The common people might need the land, but they've bought into the argument that Tiberius insulted their own sovereignty when he dragged Octavius from the platform. And this business with Pergamum? Circumventing the Senate to seize a kingdom's wealth is playing with fire. Does he want to be a king? His enemies certainly think so.
Quintus turned his gaze sharply toward the philosopher.
He already holds court like one, keeping a Greek philosopher as his shadow.
My philosophy is Greek, but my blood is noble Campanian. I am as Italian as you. If Tiberius was my pupil as a boy and still consults me as a man, where is the crime in that?
The crime is in the optics. Roman magistrates do not consult Greek thinkers on matters of state, not unless they wish to look like tyrants. I only repeat what is being whispered in the forum. They ask, when the Pergamene ambassador arrived in Rome with the royal testament, the diadem, and the purple cloak of King Attalus, where did he go? Not to the Senate. He went straight to the house of Tiberius.
Not to anoint him. It was a courtesy, nothing more. The Gracchi and the house of Attalus have shared diplomatic ties for 30 years, ever since Tiberius's father cleared the late king's father of sedition. It is a family connection, not a royal plot.
Whatever the explanation, it looks suspicious to a man with an empty stomach and a suspicious mind. It looks like a king receiving his crown.
Nonsense. The land grabbers will stoop to any slander to protect their estates. They say he wants to be a king only because he stands for the people. The voters aren't fools. They won't believe such lies.
We'll see what they think soon enough. Tiberius is running for a second consecutive term as tribune. It is traditionally illegal for a magistrate to hold office 2 years in a row.
But the tribunate is different. There is precedent. If not enough candidates stand for the 10 positions, a standing tribune may remain. The law allows for it.
Is that the plot then? To bribe or scare away other candidates so he can hide behind a technicality?
The others will stand down because the people will demand it.
Can you not see where this ends? If he stands again and wins, his enemies will be backed into a corner. They will turn to violence. If he loses his immunity, and they will drag him into court on trumped-up charges until he's rotting in exile. No matter what happens, blood is going to be spilled. It's not that I disagree with the objective. The land must be redistributed, eventually. But if only Tiberius had taken a slower path, a more gradual approach...
The greedy landholders would have opposed me just the same.
Tiberius! Where did you come from?
From speaking in the Forum, of course. Election day is coming. I thought I might find Blossius here.
Tiberius Gracchus was strikingly handsome, his features echoing the statues of his grandfather, Africanus, though today he appeared haggard. The unceasing demands of the re-election campaign had carved deep lines into his face. Yet he projected an aura that seemed to dwarf the small garden, that indefinable allure the Greeks called charisma.
I couldn't help but overhear Quintus. I've grown accustomed to defending myself before my enemies. Perhaps I should spend more time explaining myself to my friends.
I meant no offence, Tiberius, but here, in my mother's house, I make no secret of my misgivings.
And Blossius defended me, I'm sure. But even he cannot speak the words that come from my heart, for he has not seen what I have seen this last year. Hilaria, might I have a little wine? My throat is dry.
A slave brought a cup, and Tiberius drank thirstily before turning back to Quintus.
A year ago, I was no different from any other man seeking the tribunate. I wanted to make a name for myself. I believed in the speeches Blossius wrote for me, but they were a means to an end, a way to begin my ascent of the cursus honorum. Then I travelled the length of Italy.
Tiberius shook his head, his voice growing even more strained.
What I witnessed was appalling. The countryside has been emptied of free men. It's as if the peninsula was tilted by a titan's hand, and all the people tumbled into Rome, piled on top of one another in the slums of the Subura. And the land they left behind? It was filled with slaves, armies of them, working until they drop for the handful of rich men who grab the soil. I saw slaves fall dead in the furrows, while the others worked around them under the whip. They are treated worse than the livestock. We argue policy in the abstract, but to see the reality is to be shaken to the core. Yet, it was the small farmers who still remain, the islands in the sea of slave estates, that truly changed me. These men have legionary standards at their gates. They are the blood and bone of Rome's army.
Tiberius smiled ruefully.
In Etruria, I saw a placard on a gate. It said, "Tiberius Gracchus, help us keep our land." My name was misspelled, the letters crude, but then I saw another, and another. Stop the spread of slaves. Give us back our work. Somehow, news of my journey had spread. By the time I returned to Rome...
He drank more wine and leaned forward.
This mission is greater than I am. Politicians and their slanders will pass, but the destiny of the Roman people, those who feed this city and bleed for her, that is what endures.
My dear boy, I boast of being your tutor, but the student has far surpassed the teacher. I never imagined Cornelia's little boy would cast such a shadow over us all.
I have no illusions about my permanence, Blossius. I only wish to channel the power of the people for the glory of Rome. But come, we have practical matters. Appius Claudius wants to propose shortening military service and allowing non-senators to serve as judges before the election.
This requires serious discussion. At your mother's house?
Of course, Hilaria, Quintus, forgive my ramblings.
Nonsense, Tiberius. You are welcome any time. Please do come visit.
I will. Good day.
Tiberius and Blossius took their leave, and the garden suddenly felt empty. Quintus remained unmoved. To him, Tiberius was either a compulsive performer or an idealist blinded by his own vision. The passionate words only made Quintus feel more uneasy. Hilaria, however, thought of her friend Cornelia. She wondered which was better, to have a sun who blazed like a comet with all its brilliant uncertainty, or a sun as predictable as a lump of earth. For now, she envied Cornelia, but she wondered if, in the future, she would have reason to pity her.